The chorus of officials looking to crack down on big tech is growing louder. The FTC announcing it's going to examine acquisitions that Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook, as well as Apple, have made between 2010 and 2019. Join us now for a look at how this could impact the tech giants. Paul Meeks, portfolio manager and investment committee member at the Wireless Fund, and Alex Kantrowitz. He's a senior technology reporter at BuzzFeed. Oh, you're Alex. I know you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Is this surprising? I mean, we've heard for a long time that these big companies can see an upstart that has a lot of potential, and they just say, you know, it'd be easier for us just to buy this company now, whether we want it or not, just to not have the emerging competition. Does that actually happen, do you think? And should regulators do something about that, Alex?
I think it does happen, but I think what's much more common is that these big companies they acquire the smaller companies because they want a little bit of their technology or they want some of the people. And then they really have no qualms shutting down the company. So from the outside, it can look like they're catching and killing, as some people say. But for the big companies, there is something they're interested in with this, and it's they want the people, they want the technology, and they've been very successful acquiring that over the past 10 years, and that's what the FTC is looking into.
So is this a normal process that should be allowed to happen in the evolution of technology? I just find it hard to believe that we're doing something. You know, I guess it could always be better, but it seems like things are going pretty well in Silicon Valley in the United States with technology development. Is it broken? Does it need to be fixed? Should we do something?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, the FTC is looking into this. It's amazing that now they're deciding that they want to look 10 years in the past to try to figure out which acquisitions may or may not have been involved with some wrongdoing. I mean, what I think we're going to see going forward is that the FTC is going to say, if these big tech companies are making these smaller acquisitions, maybe we need to look into that a little bit more deeply. So I don't think that there's a question of should M&A continue in the United States. I think we're all going to, continue seeing M&A happen and happen at a pretty healthy pace. But the question is, should the FTC, knowing what it knows now, start looking more deeply into these smaller acquisitions? And given the size of the tech giants, I don't think it would be a bad idea.
So, Paul, would this cause you to do anything differently in terms of investments in those companies that we're talking about?
So of the big five, I actually am worried about regulatory constraints, particularly with Facebook and Google over privacy, not necessarily this issue. Apple, I think, is overpriced as a stock, so those three are out. But when it comes to the drop that we saw yesterday, particularly in Microsoft, and Amazon was about flat on the day, if this ends up trickling down to a negative impact on Amazon stock, Amazon and Microsoft, I would buy this dip.
But you think it's a problem? I mean, do you think there's actually going to be a genuine problem? This investigation is going to go anywhere? I have to say, the whole thing makes no sense to me. To actually go back and try to look at previous deals, it's very hard for any regulator to actually, I mean, this goes to the T-Mobile deal, to look at, as the judge said, to look into the crystal ball. That's the job you're being asked to do. In this case, they didn't even look into the crystal ball because these transactions were relatively small, and nobody, I am hard-pressed to say that there was a known view that it was inescapable that somehow these were going to be successful deals. No, Alex?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that, like, I don't know. It's just, like, sort of amazing. You look back at, they're going to look at deals from 2010, small deals under $90 million. So I can't even imagine, like, the FTC says they might want to unwind these deals. I don't even see how it's possible. Many of these smaller companies have already dissolved into the bigger companies. Their people are working on other products. Their founders have left. Their technology is so deeply embedded in the product that we see today.
So is
for
this
the
some
FTC
kind
to
of
come in and say,
is this just politics by press release? Is that what this is?
That what this is, I think this is looking back to decide how they're going to look forward. So what they really want to see, the FTC has been asleep at the wheel for so long. I mean, the reason why these tech companies have been able to expand is because there has been no regulatory oversight. So what they're doing now is deciding how do they want to look forward to the future. And if they see that there are improper happenings with these smaller deals, then they go ahead and say, we want to examine them. But this whole threat of them dissolving or unwinding acquisitions that have happened over the past 10 years, especially small ones, I'd say it's probably easier for them to unwind Instagram from Facebook than some of the smaller ones that we see.
Paul, in general, we heard a lot of money managers recently say, I want to own big cap, and that means I need to own tech. And obviously that's why we see the markets up every day. Do you have any trepidation at this point? And I'm not even talking about regulatory issues. I'm just talking about that it's such a big part of the S&P and it's so overloved and overweighted. Do you have any issues with that? What would you buy instead? I have a lot
of trepidation about it. You know, technology has become an overwhelming weight of the S&P 500 or any other market cap-based index. And even when you peel back the onion, you know, these 5 companies and a few others are enormously important. One of the things I think you've seen in the most recent round of quarterly earnings calls is that you're starting to see, beyond any kind of regulatory threat, you're starting to see the law of large numbers really play. You know, you had a situation where pretty solid results from Facebook and Google, yet they go down after the call because when you're that large, you just can't keep growing. And particularly if they have to meet these new compliance regulations for privacies right when their revenues are decelerating, their expenses are accelerating. And so that makes me worried about some of the larger names. So in tech, you know, stay focused on tech, but look for some value opportunities, typically smaller caps.